Your mind has to turn itself inside out and go into deep denial sometimes when you want something, or specifically someone, who is completely not okay for you to pursue. It's not right, it's not fair, it's not a good idea, they're not actually available. But doing this is common in some of us who were traumatized as kids. And so instead of going, nope, nope, what I'm about to do is immoral and it will screw up my life and everyone else's life, and I will stop. Well, instead of that, your traumatized mind starts looking for signs that it's actually the right thing to do. And in fact, it's better for everyone, you might be telling yourself. Now, I'm talking about affairs, of course, and the thinking and the denial and the cognitive dissonance necessary to keep hanging on to the idea of someone, no matter what it costs, no matter what kind of mental gymnastics you need to do to believe that the horrible drama that you have just been part of creating is just happening to you. And this is the most disempowered place your mind can go. And I want to tell you how to not go into denial, how to stay in reality instead, because your happiness and your healing depend on it. My letter today is from a woman I'll call Renee, and she writes, "Hi, Anna. I'm a single mom from Europe. I just turned 40. A little over 2 years ago, I started to work for a very small company run by my boss and his wife. Now, I've got a pencil. I'm going to circle some things that I want to come back to in this letter. It's a little longer than usual, which I usually will cut parts out, but I kind of needed to tell you this whole story. You're going to be surprised. It's an astonishing situation. All right. So Renee says, the boss and his wife, their son Ben was also working there. I was only working there for a couple of days when Ben started to send me messages, she says. We started to text a lot. We got along well, and we found out that we had a lot of common interests: gardening, living simply and sustainably, just the lifestyle we were both chasing. There was a weird pull from the very beginning, the way he looked at me, the way we texted, but he was married. And so I was simply confused, I'm circling that, by what the hell was going on. Today, this whole scenario would be a huge red flag, but back then I just didn't know. The whole texting thing got more and more intense, and over time, I kind of went crazy, as in, there must be something going on. He never talked about his wife, except once when he opened up about him not being happy in his marriage. He even once asked me for a date during lunch. We went for a walk. There was this very intense moment, but he never did anything. He barely even talked to me, like a different person than the one I was texting with. At some point, when I couldn't handle it anymore, I told him that I was attracted to him. Looking back, I don't even know if this was true or if I just needed some sort of resolution of this whole time-consuming emotional relationship. This had really affected my life. Nowadays, I would just say, or in this case, probably text, exactly that. But back then, I feel I was so different, like a toddler version of myself. So we were sitting at a campfire when I told him, campfire, I was attracted to him. He didn't say anything at first. He was just staring at the fire. We went back to the car and said goodbye, and he kissed me, and I immediately had this feeling of, oh, no, no, no. Boy, just thinking about this gets my heart rate up, but not in a good way, but it's because of everything that has happened since. I even told him that I loved him on the very next day when we met again at the same place. Ooh, I'm not even sure I really felt that. Now imagine a complete relationship just in WhatsApp, texting basically. He wrote that he and his wife agreed on an open relationship when they married, but that he had never made use of it before. He told me that he loved me via text, and worst of all, he went on a family trip with his wife while being hundreds of kilometers away and sent me a very, very long text about that they had been trying for so long, and now finally his wife was pregnant, and that he would understand if I wanted to get out. I cried for a very, very, very long time. Today, apart from the fact that I wouldn't get myself into such a messy situation again, I'm going to hold you to that. I would get out without a blink. But back then I didn't. There were so many synchronicities, so many signs. I had never experienced anything like this before. There was a very intense connection, disregarding the fact that I wasn't even sure all the time if this is what I really, really wanted. I did feel that at times, but after all, I think it was more my mind playing tricks on me because I wanted this so much and not. See my confusion? I went for many long walks back then, but finally sort of went with the I also deserve some love argument, which in the end led to him ending his marriage. I think what you're saying is you decided to start sleeping with him, and that ended to him ending his marriage. But that's very unstraightforward of explaining that. But you did something, okay? All right. I don't know what I had expected, but the storm that set off sort of unexpected for me. Back then, I really felt a huge connection, and I felt that everybody must have seen. I once visited Ben and his wife at their home long before we got together, and Ben told me much later that even his wife said later that she had felt that we belonged together. It was all very confusing. Keep hearing that word. Ben's parents were so hard on me. His dad was also very emotional. His mother didn't talk to me for almost a year, and I just sort of froze for a very, very long time. I couldn't really do anything. I was just surviving. I did not have the energy to get a new job. I did not have the energy to do anything. I was just in survival mode. Ben's wife would just show up in the office and claim her man. Claim her man, in quotes. I don't blame her. What I found unfair was that he had told me about an open relationship. I don't know if I would have been okay with really having a sort of triangle, but I sort of did not intend the ending of their marriage. And with her comment about us belonging together, I just didn't understand. Of course, I can relate to it. I'm a single mom myself, and I just really didn't see the intensity of hate coming that did. Of course, our relationship was doomed from the very beginning. It was very intense at times, and there was a huge connection, but he was not the person from the texts. He was emotionally not available, of course. I couldn't talk to him anymore. I had tried before, and he instantly almost collapsed and begged me not to break up with him. I found out about his egocentric side and the little boy within him that he was living out a lot. It was all very confusing. There's that word again. After I found out that he was texting with another woman on a non-smokers forum and even read his text saying that he would love to go for a walk in the woods with her. Whew, the old walk in the woods. And philosophize. I called it quits after 8 months, after a short break before. If I could erase any time of my life, it would be this time that came after that. It was very uncomfortable working with him and still is, and it's almost 2 years now. Yes, I'm still working there. I'm just now getting out of the anger and freezing and sort of getting my power back. After our breakup, I would say I was somewhere between still being limerent and standing my ground. I don't know. I think those are mutually exclusive. He started another relationship just 3 months later, but he would contact me again and again, and it was always the same pattern. He would say something like, I just wanted to tell you what a wonderful human being you are. Or I just wanted to let you know how grateful I am that I got to meet you. And I was hooked. And at least for the first couple of times, we were always good at texting, and we still were. Our texts got way over every line. He once even started sending me erotic images, and I went with it. Oh, that's shameful. We went so far as to tell each other that we still felt attracted to each other and that one day we would have sex again, all while he was still in a relationship. Naive me, I should probably say the limerent me, always assumed that he was single, but how he texted with me just wasn't compatible with being in a relationship in my world. Now, yes, I never really said no. I know that. I never set clear boundaries. It all just always escalated about something else. I usually blew up at him, not for nothing, for him belittling my feelings, for him, honestly, I don't even remember. It's always escalated, and I never clearly said, boy, don't contact me as long as you're in a relationship. I went with, we shouldn't text when we really can't be friends, smiley emoji, and so on. I know that's not enough. says Renee. He was always saying something like, can't we talk about it? I think we're both not being honest, blah, blah, blah. I texted him again that we can't be friends and that I will no longer read or reply to his messages and went no contact. I've been watching videos about dealing with narcissists, and I do know that I could have communicated much more clearly and thoroughly, but in the state I was in back then, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And now I don't have any interest in any kind of relationship with him anymore, or in the real Ben. There is still sometimes this meme of the person I fell in love with, but this person doesn't exist. There you go. And I see many things very differently now than I did back then. In the beginning, I was completely on this route of covert narcissism and having to protect myself. Oh, you thought it was him. Okay. And while I do see many of the traits in him with me, and I found myself in many of the stories I have read, but this for me is confusing. Where do you draw the line? Confusing. When should you protect yourself? Your emotions and your sanity by going no contact, and when not? I'm just remembering there was a little bit I cut out of this letter at the beginning that was actually relevant, where she thought that the issue here was that I said giving someone the silent treatment within a relationship was emotional abuse. But this is not a relationship. Not talking to somebody is a totally different thing, just FYI. Okay. I often think about apologizing to him and setting things straight with him because it is still uncomfortable at work. But I'm so afraid of starting this weird pattern again. I think about apologizing to him and setting things straight because, oh dear, okay. But I'm so afraid of starting this weird pattern again and this idea of having to constantly fight this. Constantly. I want to talk things out. I want to work things out. I really just don't want that. So I just remain no contact. Honestly, I couldn't even handle a message about the weather from him. It would just be so triggering. Very long story short, where's your line between silent treatment and no contact? Okay. I do hear the confusion. Boy, do I realize how I still am limerent in a weird way. And I'm still holding on, maybe just to holding on to the fight. Confusing again, she says, Renee. Okay, Renee, this is going to be one of those like tough love fairy days. So hold on, buckle your seatbelt. You're a single mom. And I was a single mom for 9 years, and I just want to tell you and everybody who's a single mom that it is a grave matter when your life gets carried away in a crazy relationship or an obsession of any kind. Every minute that you're obsessed with somebody else is your emotional availability not there for your primary job, which is being the parent to your kid. So first of all, I just like that all got lost in the story. And with that, I will just say, I recognize that as a single mom, you have to work. And also that as a single mom, you have a lot of emotional needs that nobody's meeting. And this is where limerence can kick in. I mean, limerence can kick into people who are in relationships that are presumably good and full and all that. But your emotional needs aren't met. And that leaves you vulnerable to this sort of thing. Now, I'm going to be hard on you. I think this is an extremely toxic situation. And this guy sounds terrible and a nut job and totally manipulative and a sex addict. And I'm just going to put that out there right now. But he didn't write to me about what he should do. I don't have any expectation he's ever going to change. You wrote to me. I'm going to call you out, Renee, to say, what the hell are you doing in this job? I cannot understand here why you are still in a job for years where there's this much insanity, okay? So let's unpack some of the stuff you said. All right. So they have a son working there. Right away, he started texting you. So probably you thought of this, but why do I have a feeling you are one of many who came before you for him to have his very typical sex addict it's called intriguing with somebody. Gets it going on text, not at all consistent with who he is, made up some bullshit about his open marriage, right? Is he the first guy who's ever done that? No. And women do it too. I'm not picking on guys here. But first of all, I never think that some sort of love triangle is a good idea for somebody with attachment wounds that you clearly do. You didn't tell me about your childhood, but there it is. It's all over this letter, your attachment wounds. The way you get confused, the way you go into brain fog and moral muck every time you're about to do something terribly, terribly wrong. That's what's happening through this whole letter. So You noticed he's a different person, but you say, oh, you first told him you were attracted to him at a campfire. And I'm just saying, what were you doing with him at a campfire? It is never appropriate. Just saying, with a married man, okay, he lied to you. I've got it. But just from here on out, all right. Let me back up. Renee, if you ever want to be in an open relationship with somebody, I don't recommend it. I think that's a terrible idea. But if you did, don't take somebody's word for it. Go meet the other spouse. Go find out. Go find out if this is actually what they want. Because there's no other way to get clear about the lie about something like that. And when you make a choice to get involved with a great big liar, a big pathological liar and manipulator, and you're not able to see the red flags, that's one level of terrible. But that hurts your kid, it hurts the wife, and it hurts her future kid. Like, so many people are getting hurt by this. And so, who among us is going to stand and hold the line against slipping in to a step across the line into the dark, evil shit? You do not want to go there. It's so bad for a traumatized person to lose your bearings in this way. And this is the trouble with CPTSD, is you've had your perception, you've had your moral reasoning shut down so many times. I'm guessing this is true for you. I don't think you got this way, just out of the blue. It's always wrong. It's just always wrong. And what I find particularly troubling is it's a family business and you're around his parents who very naturally were devastated by what happened here, that a grandchild was on the way and the marriage got busted up over somebody who worked there. And I can only imagine, why did all of you decide to have you keep working there when it was just destroying the family? It was just destroying everybody. I don't know. This guy, to be fair, he's going to destroy things no matter what. But don't let him swoop you up in his path. You deserve to make a living in a job where you can be happy and respected and honest and open and transparent, and you can rise up and make better money as time goes by. All of those things are totally important to a single mom. The other thing is it ties up your emotional energy. You're not going to meet anybody new to go out with when all your emotional availability is just going out like a terrible HVAC machine, just into just nothing, just wasted on somebody who truly is not going to love you back, right? Oh my goodness. He's a sex addict, all right? But I think it's possible that you are too. I think it's possible you're a love addict, and that's why you have this really serious sort of cognitive dissonance going on every time you're about to cross the line and do something that is, by anybody's standards, just wrong, just a terrible idea, destructive, hurtful, very self-destructive too. And so, there's a 12-step program for that, and I really encourage you to check it out. And to check it out, I tell people, if your problem is that you can't hold boundaries with men, I would say go to a women-only Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous meeting. They have them online, they have them in person, and there are mixed gender meetings, and there are some people who that might be appropriate and healthy for, but because of your boundary issues, you being around sex addicts, not everybody in a 12-step meeting is working a strong program, and so, you can imagine. All right, you want to be in a place where you're safe, where people are not using spiritual 12-step la to try to drag you right back down that primrose path into your own self-destruction. So I see this word confusion again, and at first I had to admit, I just felt like you weren't being honest with me. It doesn't seem confusing to me. He seems like a very, like a really strong, the red flags are so great. But then again, I had to say, well, did I always see red flags? And I didn't. I remember being confused as well. So I'm going to assume that you really can't see it. But I want to really exhort you to do whatever healing and program of recovery therapy. You can come into my program, my dating program. There are a lot of things you can do, but I really encourage you to make it your number one priority right after caring for your child. The most terrible thing that you can do to your child is to bring sick relationships into the family. God forbid you end up, married to or living with one of these guys who creates all this drama. It's so bad for the kid. And so, we, the people of your life, the people of the world, we reach out to you. It's like, come on up, girl, come up. Come out of that little pit of badness and trouble and come up where you're safe and free. And I know what's so terrifying about that is that it feels like if you were to give up this horrible, toxic, poison, yucky, fake version of love, that there would be no love at all. But it's the opposite is true, Renee. The opposite is true. No love can reach you because you're just wrapped up in this great big drama, this family drama. Also, you're forced to be stuck in this place where the family, quite rightfully, is upset. They're upset. This is so disruptive. And I'm just guessing you're in a country where there's some kind of law or something where they can't fire you or something. And, you know, I'm assuming you did a great job the whole time, but just nonetheless, for the sake of everybody's mental health, Renee, for the sake of your future, please remove yourself from this toxic soup. You can do it. People change jobs all the time. And you can too. You can go have a neutral job where there's no trouble at all, and you're just a self-respecting person, and nobody knows this about your past. And privately, you're clearing up the trouble of your past. Oh, this is the kind of thing. You know, a lot of people who write to me, this is the sort of trouble that their parents were in when they were neglecting the kids, when they were, you know, focusing on themselves rather than the needs of the kids, which is a very serious thing. So, okay, I'm just calling out another sort of thing. You say, I sort of didn't intend to end the marriage. And I can imagine the fantasy. It's like, oh, I can just go in and have a little bit of an affair for several months, and it'll be nice and it'll make life interesting, but it won't end the marriage. It's like, that is never something that you can assume. And especially because so many things he said were a lie, you have to assume everything was a lie, right? And then this part of you, I just really want to bring this to your attention where you say, I found out about his egocentric side. And I think you mean like self-centered, narcissistic, all about him side. You found out about it, you did. And the little boy within him that he was living out a lot. Whoa! There's no little boy there. It's just a mean guy. There's no little boy there. I don't know. You know me. I realize that a lot of people have this concept of an inner child. And if anybody has them, everybody has them. But I just don't relate to that concept. I think of myself as one person. I suffer my blows. I am accountable to change my life. Nobody else is coming to save me. And I just don't have, I don't imagine myself as having parts. I'm not dissing people who do. But when you start getting into talking about somebody else's little boy inside them, that is a rationalization for tolerating abuse. It just has a bad smell to it for me. Okay. And then you say it was confusing. I just think the confusion there is like, he's this terrible jerk who used me and lied to me. But there's this nice little boy in him, and I'm confused. It's like, you're not confused. You're in cognitive dissonance. It's called denial. Denial is a terrible, terrible liability when you have trouble holding boundaries and when you tend to get involved with, you know, really destructive people. This guy doesn't care about you at all. Gosh. And then I couldn't help but laugh that you end up like kind of in a relationship with him briefly. And then what's he doing? He's texting with yet somebody else at a non-smokers forum and offering to go for a walk in the woods. The old walk in the woods, maybe the campfire. I don't know. I'm laughing. I know you're still in pain about this, but I want you to get lighthearted and just realize you got taken for a walk in the woods, girl. Blah, this guy. So you say, if I could erase any time of my life, it would be what came after that. So I would just sort of say, well, could I vote for the time of your life where you made the decision to get involved with him at all? I would say, if we can reset the clock in our imaginations, let's go back to that moment, right? Let's just go back and undo. So then what came after that was this kind of like weird, couldn't leave him, couldn't let him go, texting. So I want to teach you a super ninja trick for when you really want to have a boundary with somebody and you don't want to be in sick texts. You don't text them. You just do not, no texting. And to make sure that you don't also talk to them, you don't work where they work, okay? I don't mean to be snarky here, but I'm just really getting in your face, you know? If you are going to be around somebody where you can't hold your boundaries, this is going to keep happening. And look what it's doing to you. It's miserable. So since you asked for my opinion and you have some kind of respect for what I understand about how this works, I'm just telling you, you're not giving him the silent treatment. You're also not going no contact. You are enmeshed. You are enmeshed and entangled with him and in a lot of pain. And how, like, silent treatment is when I talk about that, I'm talking about when two people are actually in a relationship and they've had an argument and one of them is unhappy about something, and rather than work it out, they give the silent treatment for a day or 3 days or something. That is emotional abuse in a committed relationship. That is not what you're in. This is you trying to simulate having some boundaries when there actually are no boundaries. You would not be texting him if you had boundaries. So everything that you say he's saying is like you're a wonderful person. He's just sitting there with his like emotional fishing line. Can I get you with this compliment? Can I get you with this little I pity you thing? Can I get you with this? And then, you said, I'm hooked. Like a fish, right? You responded to that, and you say you're naive. You're not naive. I think you're frozen. I think you're going into a trauma-induced brain fog about this. Like, why is this happening? I guess I just didn't realize, but this has gone on for years, and it's really only ever gone one way. So I'm just trying to help you, like with the cold bucket of water on your face. It's like, Renee, this guy's trouble for you, and you are trouble for him. That's the other thing I want you to take responsibility for. He's got a kid. He's got an addiction, I think, and he's got a lot of trouble. Please don't be part of his trouble. Every person who adds to his trouble is sort of like piling on to something that's going to push him to I don't know what. You got to get out of there. The right thing to do is to get out of there and stop all contact. And I know you can do it. You'll be fine, and he will be fine. It will make no difference to him. He's doing addictive behavior where he's just getting a little dopamine from getting a reaction from you. He'll find another way, all right? He seems very good at it. And so then his thing, like, we're both not being honest. That's fishing, yeah. So then you texted and said, we can't be friends, and put the smiley face, and you're sort of laughing at yourself because you're trying to be nice. But that's because you have to see him all the time. Yeah, when you don't ever see him again, this will just like all the drama in your heart, it'll just go, and then every once in a while there'll be a little memory or something reminds you, and you go, ooh, a little blip, and then it goes back down. See, in my healing community here at Crappy Childhood Fairy, everybody's doing the daily practice. So like old memories come up, old feelings, stuff that we know we don't want. It comes up, and we always have the daily practice twice a day to get the fearful and resentful thoughts out, and downstream, not in here, gone. We need that stuff out. Left to your own, if you're like alone, and that's what happens with an affair, you can't tell people, it's shameful. You know, you're alone with your thoughts, and especially when you're a single mom, I know what that pressure is like, and there's nobody to like help you out or support you emotionally, and stuff really gets to you. It just really gets to you, and it gets very inflated in your mind, and it's very easy to distort and think that something that's terribly wrong has some rationale with why it's really your fault, or why somehow you can fix it, or, you know, all these thoughts come in, and I hear it all going on with you. And you keep saying, do you see my confusion? And should I go no contact? And I'm like, yeah. You're worried that no contact is like, I don't know. I can't even read your thoughts because they're so muddled. So I'm just telling you very clearly, this is a situation to get out of. Find another job ASAP. If it has to be an interim job for you to get out there quickly, take the interim job. And you said, what's the difference between silent treatment and no contact? It's not relevant here. You're in a toxic soup, and you're part of it right now, and it would help everybody involved if you would be gone. But most of all, it will help you and your child. You could call this limerence, sure, and you're holding on to the fight. I think, you know, if I look at this intuitively, I would just say what I feel from you is a terrible fear of abandonment, of just feeling like you can't make it, you know, that you need this horrible situation because without it, there's nothing, and nothing sounds like it's a horrible silence, and there won't be anything there for you. But trust me, if you get into a healing community, such as Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, membership at Crappy Childhood Fairy, a therapy group, something that helps women who are trying to get their lives together, you would benefit so greatly from being with other people who are walking that path and who you can be honest with, people you can, you know, text, you know, a woman friend that you text and you go, I'm so sad right now, or I had something really frightening happen, and I just so bad want to call this guy. And your friend says, you want me to come over? I'll come over. Come on, we're going to have some tea. Let's, do something together, take a walk, bake something, just do something together to help you pass through that moment where the old urge to self-destruct comes back to get you, and who helps keep you on the shores of sanity and happiness and possibility and love and goodness where you belong, Renee. So if you're watching this and you have trouble detecting red flags, I have a list of them, and you can keep them in your purse, in your wallet, always with you, in case you meet somebody and you go into confusion because your trauma-driven reaction is freezing up your mind. Take out this list of red flags. You can download it right here, and I will see you very soon.